Welcome back, college baseball fans, specifically ACC fans. We are talking the Raleigh Regional. I'm joined by Micah once again, and Nick is joining us for these last two regional previews. Nick, how are you, and what have you been up to, buddy?
Just working, getting excited to go to Raleigh tomorrow to cover the regional there. Working out. That's pretty much it. That's my life.
Working out. I don't know what that is.
Nick, did you get credentialed?
He did get credentialed.
I did get credentialed. Yes, sir.
So Nick is credentialed. I'm gonna have to walk him through things to make sure he does so that he can make sure that there's a reason he got credentialed other than just getting tickets.
I do. Yeah. So I do
have
hide it,
but welcome to the club, Nick. We're all gonna have the same credential.
Yep, Nick, you're gonna have to do something to show the SID that you are actually doing something with those credentials and not just getting a free ticket.
Got it. So
we'll talk about that before tomorrow. Okay. But yeah, this is a really fun regional. I think Micah has is it a bold take or is it just a take?
It seems to be a bold take at this point, Monty.
Go ahead. Here's a bold take here for the Raleigh regional. You think it's an easy regional?
It's not the easiest, but I think it's one of the easier ACC ones.
Monty, right. have you been seeing Micah? He's been so we went on Tuffy Talk the other day, and they are just clipping that comment that he made about it being like an easier regional. They're putting on their
so screwed if South Carolina wins. I'm going to be done.
All Wolfpack Nation on you, Micah.
See, here's what scares me is I can probably understand where Micah's coming from, but South Carolina still seems dangerous to me.
Yeah.
Like, I can see what he said. Yeah, exactly. They've got the pedigree, even if they've underachieved a bit this year. But let's start with Bryant, the 4 seed. Bryant, I've seen a couple of times in the last few years. I didn't know this was their first tournament in a while because I could have sworn they were pretty decent last year. But this is their first regional, I think, in 5-6 years or something. I can't quite remember. But they're going to open up against NC State. Let's talk about some of their guys. Gavin Noriega is really the name to watch for them. The outfielder, him and Carmine Petosa, those are the two guys that you're going to watch out for in the Bryant lineup. I think those guys are far and above the biggest threats offensively for Bryant. It's going to be up to NC State to take them down. Pitching staff-wise, I'm not sure. That's probably their strength, right? They're starting pitching. Most of the rest of the region isn't really known for their rotations. I know NC State's got a decent one, but Bryant's got two really good guys in Austin Wayner and Luke DeLongchamp. I'm trying to make sure I say that right since that's a friend of the program, Jack's close to the friend of the program, Jack's last name, and I didn't want to butcher that there. But and then they've got another guy that Tyler Horvat, they've got 3 guys that have ERAs under 4.02, so that's obviously their strength for Bryant. Nick, what do you think the chances are for an upset in this region for Bryant?
Very, very, very low. I mean, you got to go through the competition they've gone through this year. I think Micah pointed it out best. They've played how many teams above 500 this year, or like
they've only won 3 games against a team above 500, and all 3 were the UMBC Retrievers who finished 2 games above 500.
Right.
Well, I mean, there's all it takes is one.
That's right. That's right. All it does is takes is one. But they did beat Pitt earlier this year.
How dare you?
I mean, that's something like not to scoff at. They did make the ACC tournament. And they're Power 5, but I mean, you're talking about a whole other level of competition right now with State versus Bryant. So I would say very low. It wouldn't surprise me if they got a couple of runs in the first inning, like right away, start off hot. It's baseball; anything can happen.
Yeah, shout out Pitt for getting 2 mentions in 2 of our 3 shows today already. We already talked about the Run Rule Oklahoma win. So, so shout out to Pitt for getting some love and I guess some dissing in the regional previews here. We're moving on to 3 seed. That's going to be James Madison. They were a bubble team that got in, and whether they should have got in or not over some other teams, who knows? But they're obviously led by Fenwick Tribbles, the big bat for them. They are an offensive-minded team. They have not had a ton of great pitching, and I think that's going to be a problem in this regional. Micah, you got any insights on James Madison?
So James Madison, the one thing that they're really good at is I call death by 1,000 paper cuts. So like they're the type of team that likes to get on base. What'd you say?
String hits together.
Yeah, like they like, yeah, exactly. They're you look at their OBP is pretty solid. Their average is the best batting average in this regional. They like to get on base. They like to steal bases. Shout out to my guy Mike Mancini. He was a Kingsport Axeman this past summer. I think he's got like 24 or 26, something around that ballpark, stolen bases for the Dukes. Obviously I got to watch them against ETSU. They came to us this week, this season, and that's exactly what they did. They can hit the ball well, but again, it wasn't too much of a power system. It was, again, these death by 1,000 paper cuts. So it's something to kind of keep an eye on with this team, because they're going to make you what's the word? They're going to make you earn it, I guess you could say, defensively, which we've seen South Carolina make some mistakes. Obviously, we're not previewing that game just yet, but I think it's something to keep an eye on with the Dukes for sure from that standpoint. And they also they're not as bad at pitching as you made them sound out to be, and they've not been great. But the Sun Belt's also a very hitter-friendly league, so I think that also plays a kind of a role into that number.
Yes, but I did get the player to watch, right? Fenwick Tribble's got to be the guy. I mean, he's hitting 376, 20 doubles, 19 home runs. Sorry, I'm reading AMAX. 371, 17 doubles, 14 home runs, 61 RBIs. They're very similar to AMAX stats, but that's why it took me a second to realize I was reading somebody else's. But he is, D1 has him as the most exciting player in the region. I am excited to see him play. I'm sure Nick is somewhat excited to see him play, as long as it's not against his Wolfpack. But that leads us to the 2 seed, and that's the South Carolina Gamecocks, who we know have had some pitching problems. They've got Garrett Gainey, who I think I've seen. I remember early in the season he served as the closer against Clemson. He's a starter now. They've been shuffling guys around as they can. I think Ty Good has been in there. They've got a number of guys that haven't quite been consistent. Garrett Gainey's been the best, but the 2 players I want to circle, one of the best catchers in the country, I call him my thick king, and that's Cole Messina. And then Ethan Petrie, of course, out in right field, I think he plays, is just a one-of-a-kind player. But I know Mike is also a big fan of their left fielder, Kennedy Jones, the former UNC, is it UNCG?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and he hasn't had the best season, but we know what he's capable of. Nick, what scares you the most about this South Carolina team?
Just how sporadic they are at the plate. You never know which South Carolina team you're going to get, the one that's very disciplined or the one that's not. Micah pointed out a very interesting stat the other day when we were on Tuffy Talk, that they strike out a lot, but they also walk a lot. So if State can throw and be disciplined pitching-wise, it should be a good game for State. But you never know what kind of team you're going to get.
Yeah, from what I've heard from AJ, they strike out looking a lot.
Yeah.
So they're not necessarily chasing. They're striking out looking a lot, trying to draw the walks, and that kind of makes sense a little bit when you say that. Otherwise, it's kind of confusing if they're chasing a bunch but still drawing a lot of walks. So it's going to be really interesting to see what South Carolina offense shows up, and then obviously they need their pitching to step up if they want to win this regional.
Yeah, agreed. It's definitely it's not out of the question that they can do it. It's kind of like the name brand kind of thing. We know South Carolina is not the South Carolina even of last year, but still, you see that name, it still kind of scares you a little bit, right?
Yep, and especially with those 2 hitters in the middle of the order with Messina and Petrie, those guys are very good and very dangerous. Even if the rest of the team isn't producing, so. Let's move on to our NC State Wolfpack. It's already been confirmed Sam Highfield will start tomorrow night. Nick, I know you were surprised about that. Do you want to talk about that at all before we really dive into the team?
Yeah, you guys kind of already know my thoughts about it. I think a lot of State fans that I saw online were all really surprised that we were going Sam for game one. I mean, when you kind of compare him to Dom, they're not too far off. I mean, I think they both have given up the same amount of homers and stuff, but when it comes to Sam is your vet. I feel like you want to save him for that game two against either a South Carolina or JMU. I think you'd feel more comfortable with that. But needless to say, I guess they will go Dominic Fritton game two, and he's been playing really well. I mean, he went toe-to-toe in up to the fifth inning with Chase Burns, only gave up a run. He had a really good game against Clemson. So I think they feel pretty good about Dom in a game two situation, if that's where they're going to throw him. But yeah, a little shocked that they're throwing Sam in game one. I guess you can't go 2-0 unless you go 1-0 first. So I think they just want to do that.
Yeah, it could also be something about keeping him in his rhythm as well.
Right.
He pitched last Thursday night against Duke. Yeah, so keeping him from getting too much rest maybe, but talk about this NC State team. I did a meme earlier, Super Smash Brothers meme that I really enjoyed doing with it really started with Pennington and Makarevich and Cozart in the middle of that order, and then I ended up, to fill in some space, added Brandon Butterworth looking silly and Noah Souls as well. But the three big bats in the middle of the order is really going to be the key to NC State's run this week.
Yeah, I mean, Cozart's getting hot. Right where we need him to be. And Micah pointed out great points that Butterworth is going to be a key to winning this regional. So is Noah Soul. So are the Nixon brothers. All these guys are playing hot right now. And I've said it once, I'll say it again. I'm glad that they got the dud out of the way. They got the bad game out of the way. Yeah. So we'll see. Sure. I mean, they were really hot going into this thing. And I know we all wanted an ACC championship and have them make a deep run in that. But, I think it's a good mental reset for them.
Oh, yeah. And, I really also like the back end of the bullpen with Jacob Duden, Derek Smith, and Cooper Consiglio, the way those guys have played recently. I know they're going to be matching up well against Garrett Gainey, Ty Good, Chris Veach on the other side with South Carolina. Those are really good bullpens. I'm really excited to see how they all shake out this weekend. Micah, do you have anything to add on NC State?
No, I mean, I think the Highfield decision, obviously we spent a lot of time on that with Tuffy Talk.
AJ just asked about it after we just talked about it.
Wow. So come on, AJ, get with the program, dude.
So something that came up, Nick, that I kind of looked at a little bit after our wonderful time on Tuffy Talk. Shout out to those guys again for having us. I really kind of wish Marone was getting the start here. Yeah. I really like what that kid can do. And I mean, I'm going to say this. With Highfield pitching against Bryant, man, I don't think Bryant's got a shot now. Where, even then, I don't think I wasn't feeling super confident in them, but I don't think Bryant's going to get their average of 7.49 runs per game, against Sam. Right. So I don't know how I feel, but also, too, I looked at it. JMU and South Carolina have question marks on the back end of their rotation, too. So I really do think that maybe it's not the worst thing in the world, because I do think that NC State has the luxury of – I mean, here's the thing that made me the most mad. Someone said – I think it was D1 Baseball. It said South Carolina has the best bullpen in this.
They did say that. I'm looking
and I was like, did you not watch NC State the last month and a half of the season? So – I think NC State has the best bullpen in this regional. I think they have the luxury of knowing that they have that if things do go south.
Not to call out Joe Healy, but he wrote this, and he's an SEC guy, so that may have played a factor. Not to call him out.
No, I mean, because
Joe Healy, he knows his stuff, but he is covering the.
And there's an argument that the numbers, when you look at NC State and South Carolina, I think they actually do lean South Carolina for the majority of the season. The last month and a half, what you've seen from this NC State team, like the NC State team from March is not the NC State team from May. They took major steps forward.
Well, Derek Smith and Cooper Consiglio are completely different pitchers than what I saw early in the season.
Correct. So that's all I had to add on that. I mean, I think at the end of the day, NC again, I still stand on my opinion that this regional is not as difficult as everyone's making it out to be for NC State. I'll be the first one to admit I'm not a believer in South Carolina. I think what happened in Hoover was just kind of a Hoover thing.
AJ made a great point. If Garrett Gainey's a starter, which we're not sure, they may have announced today, I'm not sure, but SEC's bullpen is graded much differently. That is true, because then you've only gone down to two really consistent arms in Ty Good and Chris Veach. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this region shakes out. I know how you feel about it, Micah, but let's get to our picks. Nick, we can start with you. Who's going to finish 4th, 3rd, 2nd, and 1st? Eli Jones is starting game 1, AJ just said. So,
Nick, I'm going to go State 1, South Carolina 2, JMU 3, and Bryant 4.
Nick going chalk here.
Going chalk in this one.
Rock chalk. Oh, wait. Nope. Sorry, Kansas. Micah.
I'm actually just about to tweet my picks, which is kind of funny. But I got the same order of finish, but I'm going to caveat this, Mr. Monty. I do have JMU winning game 1 against South Carolina. I do think that South Carolina I think they have more depth at the end of the day to get back like in that, loser bracket game. But I do think the Dukes win tomorrow if we're making that pick. But I do have NC State advancing, South Carolina 2, the Dukes of James Madison 3, and the Bryant Bulldogs 4.
Before I change mine, can you tell me who I have?
Oh, man. I don't have it pulled up in front of me.
Oh, I thought you did. My bad. Never mind. Don't worry.
No, I have my cool little every single in one graphic.
I had it around here somewhere. Oh, I found it. Okay, I had South Carolina at 1, NC State at 2, JMU at 3, Bryant at 4.
Yeah, the haters gonna hate. And
I'm just trying to stick with what I wrote down the other day. But
hey,
that's gonna be
Nick Wolf.
Pack.
Wolf. Pack. Monty's just mad that he's not allowed to cheer for any other team in the triangle, because since he's so pro Duke now, he can't do anything but the Duke Blue Devils.
I think
he's actually just mad at NC State because Duke let them win, I guess.
Anyway, we've got one more regional to do after this. We'll be back in a couple minutes with that. It's going to be Greenville, and then any of the rest of them you can see live on YouTube or on the Fifth Quarter ACC podcast page. Just means less. We'll see you in a couple minutes for Greenville.